The next time you're sat there debating with yourself whether or not you're going to actually start working out today like you said you would, or if you're just going to keep procrastinating another week, I want you to ask yourself this question. Which decision are you most likely to regret? Because deep down, I think we all know the answer to that question. Every time you procrastinate, what you've essentially done is just lied to yourself because you told yourself that you do it. And every week that you continue to tell yourself you'll do it and then don't do it, the less and less you'll be able to trust yourself in the future because you've lied so many times. And one thing that I know I can guarantee you is that if you just go to the gym and you finally do that workout, what you're going to realize is it wasn't so bad. And you're going to realize that this whole negotiation you're having with yourself about whether you should just go or wait another week was over something that really wasn't even that bad. And then what you're going to realize is that you're going to regret all of that time you wasted procrastinating. Because like I said, deep down, you know that it's something you should be doing because it's only going to improve your life. There's no question about it, which is why it's so weird to think that you're actually debating with yourself whether or not you should do it. But I get it because I've been there. There's so many different variables at play that you're juggling in your head. First of all, it's difficult. Training's hard. You know it's going to hurt because that's just part of the process. And then on top of that, you don't really know where to start, what exercises to do, what rep ranges to do, what order to do them in, which just adds another layer of required brain power that you don't want to deal with. And then on top of that, you start doubting yourself and asking whether or not you'll even get the result you want. So what you have is this daunting task that's going to be very difficult, or that you perceive is going to be very difficult. You don't even know how to start it or what to do. So now the risk of starting it, because you don't even believe in yourself, is way higher than just avoiding it. So now you've just created this mental storm that you have to deal with. So what inevitably happens is you just avoid dealing with it. You tell yourself you'll start next week. So what inevitably happens is you just avoid dealing with it and you tell yourself that you'll start next week. You're going to give yourself some time to think about what you need to do. You're going to figure out what routine to do. You're going to convince yourself that you're going to get good results. Convince yourself that it's not going to be that hard. But then, of course, you don't because you never actually figured it out. And then the cycle repeats. And of course, this is a trap because you're never going to figure it out until you actually start and begin learning. Now, the brain is very smart. Every time you tell yourself next week after lying to yourself the previous week, you actually believe it. Like you genuinely believe you're going to start next week. Your brain will trick you in a sense. And then when the time finally comes to make the decision next week, when you're supposed to train, that's when you remember why you keep procrastinating, because the thought of doing the uncomfortable task becomes too daunting. And then that whole mental storm arises again. What do I do? Where do I start? It just requires so much brain power, or what feels like so much brain power, but really isn't that much. And it just causes you to avoid it. So you just, instead of dealing with it, you just forget about it and you lie to yourself again and you tell yourself you're going to start next week. So the key is really to just stop thinking so much, because your brain will somehow always sabotage you until you get it to work in your favor. But the one thing that I can promise you is that if you just go to the gym, you stop thinking about it so much and just go. You pick up some weights, use some machines, even though you may not know what you're doing, just get in a workout, just do something. If you finally just go, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, it will always beat the shame you feel of lying to yourself every week and not going. I can guarantee it. And I know this because I've been there. And this applies to anything in life, not just the gym. Anything that you should be doing that you know you need to be doing, but just avoid anyways because it's uncomfortable or requires too much brain power. And the longer that it accumulates, and the longer that you let that shame of making the comfortable decision in the moment accumulates, the worse it will become when you look back on all of the wasted time. And that's a scary feeling to even think of. But if you just actually go to the gym, you'll feel so much better, both physically and mentally. And the beautiful thing is that once you stay consistent for a little while and you actually start to improve your physique, you're going to end up loving it anyways. And once you start enjoying and loving that process, that's when your mind starts working with you instead of against you. Because it doesn't even matter how fast or how much progress you're making. As long as you're progressing at any rate, you win, because you're going to get there eventually. So that's all you needed to do the whole time. You just had to start and just make some progress. It didn't have to be perfect, which is probably another reason why you kept procrastinating. You think everything needs to be perfect from the start, but it never will be. And once you're making progress, that feeling of shame of having not started and not making any progress goes away, because it was never about the result, anyways. It was just about doing the right thing and progressing towards it.